Brian, was there any other way this could have played out with Davante in your estimation than having to trade him? Was there any chance that something else could have happened?
Yeah, not at the end of the day. Again, those are really tough decisions, and to lose a player of his caliber, and what he's done for the organization is always those are hard decisions and hard things to move on from. But at the same time, I think once we got through the discussions with Davante after the season, this was what was best for the organization and Davante moving forward.
Did you have an idea even during the season that it might be going this way, or at what point did it become clear that there was no other option?
Yeah, not really during the season. It was more after the season as we got through some things and had discussions afterwards. But again, I think Davante deserved a lot of respect as we went through this process, and we felt we gave that to him. And we're very straightforward, open and honest with the communication part of it. And just as we got through it into free agency and we were moving on with that cap number, I think the best thing for the organization was to move on.
Brian, you guys obviously refused to trade Aaron last offseason. Was there any pushback on that from Davante? And at what point did you say, okay, it's probably in our best interest to trade him?
Yeah, I think those are kind of two separate situations, but I think in this particular case, it's like everything. I talk about the dominoes all the time, and there were some dominoes that were important to us that if we continued down the road we were, it was going to be difficult to put the team we wanted to put around, Aaron and everybody. So I think two different situations, but we wish him the best and his family the best, and I think that ultimately this is what he wanted.
Was there any regret from your guys' end about how you handled the contract negotiations leading up to this, or would you have done nothing differently?
No, I felt really good about the communication with Davante and his agents before the season, through the season, and after. So, again, Russ does a great job doing that, and it was very straightforward, open and honest throughout the whole process.
You called him one of the greatest receivers in your franchise's long history. Is it tough to hear from a guy that caliber that he didn't want to be there anymore? Is that a tough thing to hear?
It's always tough, but I think at the same time understanding the reasons behind it, and I won't get into that, but understanding why that was important to him was important for me. And again, he's a special player, a special man, and we're going to miss him. But at the same time, I feel really good about the group we have coming back, the team we have, and we'll kind of see what we can add to it over the next few months.
Brian, if this was the step, what do you think about what you got back? Being able to get the extra first, the second, and that flexibility now with the 11 picks?
Well, certainly getting something back, that could help our football team was very important. So as we went through it, to me, there's going to be probably, you never really replace a guy like Davante Adams. It's going to be more cumulative on how the whole team steps up and plays and what we can add to that. So getting kind of the 2 picks and having 4 picks in the top 59, I think gives us a little bit of ammunition to try to make the difference there a little bit.
Do you like anyone you saw at Ohio State, Penn State Pro Day at the receiver position?
It was a good trip, but it was very rainy and gray the entire time, and then we came here. So it's, no, you guys know me. Getting out on the road and being able to see players live is something that is very important to me, and I truly love it. And so there'll be a few more, hopefully here next week as we go. But that's always a big part of the process for me and our scouts is to get out and see these guys live and compete. So it was good to get on the road.
We haven't been able to speak with Aaron since you traded Davante. What was the communication like with him during that process? Did he know? And so he signed, so he's clearly on board with the decision.
Yeah, obviously I keep those conversations between Aaron and I, but I will say it's very much been a partnership over the last year, moving forward with all these decisions. I think he spoke, greatly about having some impact on people that affect his job. So certainly as we went through, it was important for me and us to communicate through that.
Given the history of rookie receivers, there's been a few who have produced, but they're still the rare ones. What do you think going into a season where you really might need to lean heavily on a rookie?
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out by the time we get to September and the games start. But yeah, I think it's not the norm for young receivers to produce at a high level. I think you're seeing it a little bit more as of late. I think the emergence of all the 7-on-7 leagues and these guys playing the position so much longer has helped. But yeah, I think it'll be, again, to replace a guy like Davante Adams, it's going to be kind of a multifaceted approach. It won't be like a singular player.
So it was 98 when Randy Moss came in and destroyed the division, and then in 99.
I was in Kansas City then, just to remember, make sure. Yeah.
99 was 1, 2, 3. DB,
corners,
DB,
yes.
DB.
I think it was Antoine Edwards, Mike McKenzie was the 3rd pick, and then Fred Vinson
was
or Amon Green, however you want to put that.
Not saying you'd want to take 3 of them, but could you see multiple guys very high in that draft, first 2 rounds maybe?
I think it's too early to tell, but I think it's my history, and even with Ted's history, I don't think we've ever shied away from taking multiple players at one position in a draft. So certainly if the right players are there, we wouldn't shy away from that.
Brian, did you ever think there was a chance that the Raiders or somebody else would sign Davante just to a franchise tag tender, and then have the 2 first-rounders out there? Or
I think as we went through the early part of the offseason, knowing kind of information that we got, I wasn't concerned. I didn't think that would happen.
Are you confident that with the deal that Aaron just signed that he can retire as a Packer at this point? Do you view that deal as a kind of deal that'll get him to the finish line with your franchise?
We'd certainly like to. I think that's certainly one of the goals, I think, of his. I don't want to speak for him, but I think that was kind of part of the scenario we thought when we went through this process.
Who's your second favorite boss of all time?
Besides my wife, I have to say Ted Thompson.
Good answer.
I'm not asking yours.
With Aaron the process, at what point did it become clear that did he indicate to you that he's coming back and that, that things were moving forward in that direction?
Yeah, I think obviously we had a lot of conversations right after the season, and then he kind of took some time to go through things and make sure he wanted to commit to the significant time and effort he puts into preparing for the season. And once he got through that time, I think we found out probably shortly before the rest of the world found out. So
Can Douglas play a lot of nickel, or is he primarily an outside guy?
Yeah, no, I really like the versatility of our corner group, and I think he can do some of that. He's obviously very physical in the run game, which is an important part of playing nickel. He's a taller, bigger corner, which obviously sometimes some of those quicker inside slot receivers can give those guys problems. But I think his instincts and his ability to anticipate make up for a little bit of that. So he certainly could. I think, quite frankly, our entire corner group that we kind of have right now probably could play both inside and out for the most part.
Alexander's shoulder injury give you any qualms about putting him there a lot?
It would have maybe last year while he was working through it. I think as it's healed and stuff, it wouldn't give me too many. But again, with Ja, he's going to kind of go where the some of the receivers are going to go. He's going to follow some of those guys in different packages. He can kind of do everything, and that's a nice luxury for us to have.
How come you guys have decided that Savage, that's just not the thing for him? I mean, he's played there a few snaps, but nothing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we have decided that's not the thing. We certainly know he can do it, but he's so good at so many different things, and him and Adrian complement each other so well. Certainly having him coming from maybe a deeper level can give quarterbacks fits as well, but certainly if we need him to go in there and do that, he certainly has the skill set to do it.
Brian, how critical was with getting Dre back, in that defense, and now that you got him for the long term, what do you think the potential is there with him really getting a chance to settle in?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see kind of his growth from year 1 to year 2. I mean, what a story that is, for him coming in when he did, not only to a new team, but taking over a little bit of a new position at the mic, making the calls and things like that, and just watching him just kind of just explode onto a scene. And it was such a big difference for our football team. So we're excited to have him in year 2. Excited for him and his family that he was kind of able to capitalize on the opportunity that we gave him last year, and he's certainly a big part of where we're going. So it'll be really interesting, to see our whole group grow, because we have a lot of returning players on defense, and so we're excited about that.
Right, from a team building perspective, how would it change the way you go about things if the draft was before free agency?
Well, that's a great question. In some ways, I would, a week after the college season, I wouldn't mind getting the medicals done and then just drafting. It would probably help us a lot. But that's an interesting question. I think, certainly at times you'd like to fill some holes before you hit the draft. I think if the draft was before free agency, certainly you may feel like you have, things at a spot where you may not actually, because you're talking about younger, inexperienced players. Haven't thought about that question too much, but it would definitely change how you thought about it.
I imagine there's sometimes in the draft when you have to address something you didn't get in free agency and wished you had, maybe.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if the union would be all fired up about doing that after the draft.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you love hypotheticals. What's your understanding of Tunyon's kind of recovery and when a ballpark is when you could get him back?
Yeah, Bobby's doing great. I don't know if we necessarily have a real timetable on it. I just know that he's ahead of schedule. You guys that have been around him know kind of his work ethic and what a professional he is. So, we won't we won't close the door on anything early if it's possible. But at the same time, you guys know how important he's going to be to our offense, so we'll be cautious as we go through that too, to make sure he's available for the whole year. So
what was the thinking behind extending Preston and then letting Z go?
Yeah, again, another really tough decision, but we really thank Z for all what he's done for certainly our organization over the past couple of years, because that was a big addition to our defense when we kind of kicked off 19. But I think obviously that nasty word of salary cap is kind of drives a lot of decisions, and certainly this is one of them. I think with the emergence of Rashawn and then just Preston playing so well last year, I think that those things came into play.
What are your feelings when these good players end up in the division?
It seems like since I've been in Green Bay, we've seen this a lot, and we take it as a compliment in a certain way. But at the same time, you never want to see your good players lining up against you. That's never a fun thing. Certainly not for us, not for our fans. But it's just kind of part of it. I think when you have success, you're not going to be able to keep everybody, and players are going to go to teams that line up against you.
You mentioned when you announced Aaron's deal that you want to enhance the roster, not just retain it.
Yeah.
Since then, you've lost Davante, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Are you further, even with Aaron back, are you further from winning a Super Bowl right now than you were, and how do you make up for that?
Yeah, I don't really look at it like that. We don't play a game until September, so it's like we got a lot of time to build the roster to get to where we want to go. And I've talked about this a lot, about it being a 365-day-a-year job as far as building the roster, and I believe in that. And I know our personnel staff and our coaching staff does too. So, what we have now, what we have in September, what we might have in November, and then into January could be completely different. So, I feel very confident about our ability to get out there and compete, and certainly Aaron was the centerpiece part of that.
With the deal that he did sign, the richest in NFL history, how much does that kind of put your focus on enhancement through the draft, or do you feel like you still have some flexibility to do things outside the draft to build the roster?
Well, certainly once the trade of Davante happened, you probably saw Rasul and Devondre and some of these things happen that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do. And so I think we have more flexibility now than we would have. But we're still not, we're not footloose and fancy free with that. But at the same time, I think we have some flexibility that if the right player was there, we could acquire him. And I don't feel like we have too many restrictions there.
Brian, what did you like about O'Donnell? I think you guys have seen him quite a bit in the last 7-8 years. What kind of stood out to you with him making?
Right. Well, certainly his consistency, not only as a punter but as a holder, and it's just his directional punting, I think, is excellent. I think bringing Rich in, he had some familiarity with him there, and I think as we went kind of through the process of how we wanted to build, our special teams unit going forward, which is obviously a major focus this year, as it has been in the past, but we certainly have to be better than we were last year. He just kind of became the guy we thought was the best for the job, and Corey did a great job for us last year, coming in at the last minute like he did. We just thought this one was a little bit more of an all-around consistency for us, and the holding is a big part of that.
Given how things went with Bakhtiari's knee in the second half of the season, what degree of confidence can you have that he's going to be okay and be somewhat near the same player that he was?
Yeah, well, two things really. I think one, our medical staff and what they've been telling me about the injury, and certainly David's work ethic. So I feel pretty good about it. The long term, we knew going into this season it was going to be a little bit touch and go, and not really sure when he was going to be able to be back. I thought he came in there in that second to last game and had some really quality snaps, and we thought we might be over the hump, and he had a little bit of a setback there, but feel really good about where he's at right now and what we're doing going forward.
Was there something more than just the ACL on that? Is that why this was?
Yeah, I'm not going to get it. Obviously, I'm not going to get into medical stuff publicly, but it was like I said. I'll say this is that David did everything and more to try to get back and help our football team. It just wasn't in the cards last year.
What does Jerron Reed give you?
I think it's another guy again, we have a pretty good group in there with obviously with Kenny and Dean that have produced for at a high level for a long time, and then I thought TJ did some really nice things for us last year, so it kind of gives us a fourth in that rotation right now. Certainly when we go base, this guy started 20 games last year, has been a multi-year starter, so that'll be something that I think we can plug in there, and he's, I think as a pass rusher, maybe he'll give us a little bit more than maybe what we've had in the past. So getting a proven player like Jerron at this point, free agency was important for us.
You talked about before the combine having a defense that was salty enough to go win you some games. Rasul's back, Davante added to the defensive line. Was that a big focus of yours? Obviously, Aaron was a big focus, but on the other side of the ball, just keeping that defensive ability.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys saw last year as we grew as a defense. It just, we had some really good moments where we made it really difficult on our opponents. I think it's, as a group, even with some of the injuries we had with Z and Jaire, we were able to really hold. They were really able to hold their end of the bargain out. And you look at that playoff game. I mean, that was one of the better performances defensively that we've had in the playoffs in a long time. So I'm excited about that group, seeing what Joe can do with them in the second year, especially with some healthy pieces that weren't there last year. So yeah, it'll be interesting what we can add between now and September. But I like the group we have coming back.
Would you like to get Jaire extended before the season starts?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to. We'll see how that goes. But he's such a big part of what we're doing. He's been such a good player for us from the day he kind of arrived, and we'd love for that to happen. Certainly, we've been in communication with his representation, and we will continue to be as we go through the year.
A couple more guys.
I know the undrafted thing has been so big, especially on the O-line over the years, but what was your perspective on Yash last year, and where did you see him grow, from the guy you guys brought in 3 years ago to what he did as that third spot?
Yeah, I think with Yash, I mean, first of all, you got to give him a lot of credit through the last 3 years, just his work ethic and his consistency working, and I think he just needed an opportunity, you know what I mean? And it's probably as much my fault as any, but we kept bringing in some veteran guys at tackle, to shore up kind of that third tackle spot, which never really gave him the opportunity. And once he got the opportunity, he certainly performed exceptionally well. So very proud of him and his work ethic and what he accomplished when he was given the opportunity.
What was the decision to release Billy? Was that as much to do with Yash and the opportunity you talked about, or what was the decision?
Yeah, and I think, again, the salary cap thing played a big part in that. Billy was a warrior for us. Can't say enough good things about Billy and what he's done for us since we picked him up. But I think we had some young offensive linemen start to emerge, and it just, again, another tough decision, but what we thought was right for the organization.